Why are lies and fake news protected? And that's because the First Amendment doesn't allow government to interfere with that discussion. So private companies can do it. So Twitter can ban you, Facebook can ban you, the government can't. And as a result, that means there's this cacophony of voices out there, and some of it is untruthful speech, just outright lies. So we can do things about things like defamation or something called true threats. But the Supreme Court has said that lies are actually protected speech. There's a case called Alvarez, the stolen honor speech, that tells us that as long as the speech is not immediately harming somebody, it's protected even if it's a lie. There's always been lies in the public discourse, and when we deal with politicians, it's almost a given. And what I think is different about the internet age is that we used to have a few reliable sources for information. Now the internet is much more diverse. My own take on it is it's still very easy for people to separate truth from falsity on the internet. It takes the slightest bit of effort, but people are pretty lazy. And so rather than just having those authoritative sources, the Walter Cronkites, people just go to whatever site clickbait takes them to, and they get fake news. I don't see any circumstances that would lead to government restriction of the internet. You saw even with the Facebook fiasco that we had about sale of private information, the government in some respects is just reluctant to get into that sphere, and for many purposes can't regulate because of the First Amendment. So it is going to be incumbent on citizens to educate themselves to determine fake news from truthful content. And again, it's not that hard if you follow just a couple basic parameters. And one nice thing about the internet is because so much information is available, you actually can delve down to the truth relatively quickly with just a couple hyperlinks. I think we're going to see a sea change in our culture. So we've seen it in politics with Russian hacking, which is a real thing despite fake news that says it's not. But I did want to talk about, there's some rules that we can follow that get you to the correct answer. So people should be skeptical, right? Always skeptical of what you read. Look at the source. So if it comes from the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal, those are still reliable news sources. And so if it doesn't come from one of those sources, you should discount the information. If it comes from your neighbor with a high school education, it may not be right. So approach everything you read with skepticism. We can follow Carl Sagan's advice, which is that extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof. So if you read something on Facebook that says Hillary Clinton was running a child prostitution ring out of a pizza parlor, that's probably not right, regardless of the source. And so be skeptical of it and require proof. And finding the proof is so easy. So you do what I do, go to the original sources. So for instance, I often go to Wikipedia, which is not like the fountain of knowledge, but it has footnotes that'll take you to the actual first sources, and you go and read them. So when I'm interested in a Supreme Court decision, I don't read about it in the newspaper to see what a talking head tells me. I just do a hyperlink right to the Supreme Court. I read the decision for myself. So people can do that regardless of the chaos on the internet. They can do that with or without government regulation. And they have to learn to do it because we're not going to see government regulation in the field. To the extent that we're dealing with private actors like Facebook or Twitter, market forces suggest that they not intervene in that chaos of news.